room fell quiet the moment the billionaire smirk appeared. It was the kind of smirk that had ended conversations, crushed confidence, and reminded people exactly where they stood in the world. In a restaurant filled with polished glass, soft music, and unspoken rules about who mattered and who didn't, that single expression changed the air. The waitress standing in front of him felt it in her chest before she fully understood it, like the slow tightening of a knot she had learned to live with. And when he casually challenged her, assuming her silence would follow, no one in that room expected what came next. Before the story unfolds any further, pause for a moment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of people who are often overlooked, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Stories. Your support keeps these stories alive. She had started her shift the way she always did, tying her apron with careful hands and reminding herself to keep her head down. Working at one of the city's most expensive restaurants meant learning how to be invisible while standing in plain sight. The guests came wrapped in confidence, wealth, and entitlement, while she moved between tables, carrying plates heavier than they looked. Her life outside those walls was far less glamorous. Long nights studying borrowed books, mornings rushing between buses, and a quiet promise she made to herself years ago that she would never stop trying to become more than what the world expected of her. That evening, the restaurant buzzed louder than usual. A powerful businessman had arrived, someone whose name alone made managers straighten their backs and staff whisper warnings. He was known for his sharp tongue as much as his sharp suits, a man who treated service like a stage where he always played the lead. He sat surrounded by elegance, expensive wine, and people who laughed a little too eagerly at everything he did. When the waitress approached his table, she felt the familiar mix of nerves and determination. She had served hundreds like him before, men who measured others by what they wore and how they spoke. From the moment he looked at her, she knew he had already decided who she was. Just a waitress? Just another background detail in his evening. He studied her accent when she spoke, the way she carried herself, and something in his expression shifted into amusement. The challenge he threw at her was meant to entertain the table, not to test her. It was a reminder of power, a small performance of superiority dressed up as humor. He expected embarrassment. He expected confusion. He expected her to retreat politely, maybe laugh it off, and return to the kitchen with her cheeks burning. What he didn't expect was the past she carried silently with her. He didn't know about the small apartment filled with second-hand furniture and handwritten notes taped to the walls. He didn't know about the evenings she spent practicing languages under dim lights, repeating words until they felt natural on her tongue. He didn't know about the grandmother who raised her, who believed that knowledge was a kind of armor the world could never take away. And he certainly didn't know that the language he chose to mock her with was one she had once loved deeply, learned not for status, but for survival. When she responded, she didn't do it to impress him. She did it because for the first time that night, she refused to shrink. Her voice was steady, calm, and clear, shaped by years of effort no one had ever applauded. The table froze. The laughter stopped mid-breath. Even the music seemed to fade into the background. The billionaire's smirk faltered, not dramatically, but enough for everyone to notice. It was the subtle change in his eyes that told the real story. Surprise gave way to confusion, and confusion slowly turned into something else entirely. For a moment, she saw uncertainty on a face that rarely knew it. She felt the weight of every struggle she had endured standing quietly behind her, pushing her forward. She didn't raise her chin in defiance or wait for approval. She simply stood there, present and unashamed. Around them, people shifted in their seats, suddenly aware that they were witnessing something more than a clever response. It was a quiet reversal of roles, a reminder that intelligence and dignity don't announce themselves with price tags. The billionaire tried to recover, as powerful people often do. He laughed again, but it sounded different this time, thinner, forced. He looked at her as if seeing her properly for the first time, not as a role, but as a person. Something in him had been challenged, not loudly, not aggressively, but in a way that lingered, the kind of challenge that stays with you long after the moment has passed. She finished her service that night with trembling hands, not from fear, but from the release of something she had carried for too long. In the staff room later, she leaned against the wall and breathed deeply, replaying the moment over and over. She wondered if she had gone too far, if there would be consequences. Experience had taught her that standing out was risky, but beneath the worry was a quiet pride she hadn't felt in years. Days passed, and life returned to its routine. Orders, plates, long hours, tired feet. She told herself it was over, just another story to tuck away and remember on hard days. Then one afternoon, the manager called her into the office with an unreadable expression. Her heart sank. She prepared herself for disappointment, for being told she had crossed an invisible line. Instead, she was met with unexpected news. The businessman had returned to the restaurant earlier that day, asking about her. Not demanding, not mocking, but curious. He had spoken about that evening with unusual seriousness, admitting that he had underestimated her. More than that, he wanted to offer her an opportunity, not out of pity, but out of respect. A connection. A door slightly opened in a world that rarely opened them for people like her. She didn't accept immediately. Growth had taught her caution. But as she walked home that evening, the city lights reflecting in puddles on the sidewalk, she realized something important had already changed. Even if she never stepped through that door, she had reclaimed something far more valuable. Her voice, her worth, her belief that she was allowed to take up space. In the weeks that followed, she began to see the world respond differently to her. Not because the world had changed, but because she had. She spoke with confidence, applied for opportunities she once thought were out of reach, and stopped apologizing for knowing more than people expected. The memory of that night became fuel, a reminder that moments of courage often arrive disguised as moments of discomfort. And somewhere in a penthouse office overlooking the city, a billionaire found himself thinking about a waitress who had surprised him. Not with arrogance, not with anger, but with quiet excellence. It unsettled him in the best way. It reminded him that wealth could buy many things, but it could never buy the depth of a life lived with perseverance. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of a time you were underestimated or inspired you to believe in yourself a little more, please take a moment now to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to Kindness Stories. Your engagement helps these messages reach hearts that are still waiting to be seen. And before this story ends, we have one special request for you. Please comment below and tell us, have you ever surprised someone who underestimated you? Or are you still waiting for your moment? Because sometimes, the most powerful transformations don't come from changing the world around us, but from finally standing tall within it.